My name is Robin John, and I welcome you to Powervision series on family empowerment. Under family empowerment series, I will be emphasizing more on topic church. There are around 300,000 plus churches in America, which includes traditional and non-traditional churches. When we look at these churches as a whole, when we look at them holistically, these churches are losing their impact on society. These churches are becoming less and less impactful and are not able to transfer the power to the newer generation. The basis of human existence is shifting away from God and towards humanity. And this is a big concern for us as Christians. In Bible, years after Samuel's ministry was established, David rose to restore the glory of God back to the rightful place. We read that in 2 Samuel chapter 6. I believe that the highest priority in God's heart for now and beyond, and the need of the hour that we all are facing today, is the restoration of His glory and His church. How we can do that? What as a church or as a community we can do to improve that or start making this church more impactful. Recently, I was reading this book called Good to Great. It says, good is the biggest enemy of great. And that's the reason why we have so few that becomes great. We don't have great churches because we have good churches. The reason that we have good churches is the obstacle for church to become great, because it is very easy to settle down with good things, and gradually these good churches shrink and become less impactful to society. And that we are facing in today's era, we are facing currently, most of our churches are facing this shrinkingness of the church. When we look at church, the vision of the church is tied to two things: culture of the church and the leadership. So these are the two things that the vision of church is basically tied to: culture of the church and leadership. When church becomes clear in these two areas, the main vision of church become more clear and transparent. And that's where we want to achieve our church to go in coming years. In this series of family empowerment, I want to talk about how a church can return back to its glory again, or it can return back to its previous glory, which then can build a strong family and a strong society. Because church plays an important role in building up a family and a society. The first point which we will cover in this session will be culture in church. What does that mean? Culture in church. When I'm saying culture, please don't misunderstand me by thinking that I'm talking about, African American churches, comparing that churches to Indian American churches, or comparing Baptist churches and all those stuffs. No, culture here, I'm not referring to those differences in churches that is arising out of different ethnicity and different regions of the church. There can be different ethnic churches, but that's fine. But I'm referring here to a specific channels that shapes a nation and defines a society? What are those channels in a culture that shapes a nation and defines a society? Or how church vision and church cultures related? How best I can explain church vision and church culture relationship? Let's take church vision. If a good steak is church vision, then the plate on which it is served is the culture, right? If the plate is dirty, then the steak, that is the vision of the church, no matter it is good, it is devalued. So that's the importance of culture when we are talking about church and its impact on the society. If it was Colson and Percy's explanation that grabbed my mind and my heart, and that was like this. They says, God cares not only about redeeming souls, but also about restoring His creation. He is not only caring about redeeming souls, but He cares about His creation. They say, He calls us to be agents not only of His saving grace, but also of His common grace. Our job is not only to build up a church, but also to build up a society to the glory of God. As agents of God, common grace, we called to help sustain and renew His creation, to uphold the created institutions such as families and society, to pursue science and scholarship, to create work of art and beauty, and to heal and help those suffering from the result of the fall. Isn't that great? That covers everything that we need to understand to empower the church again. That will empower our society and then our family. Reading this quote, I understand that Christians live to serve the common good of our neighbors, right? And that service creates an unmatched influence on the culture. I hope you all are following. Because I strongly believe that church is the hope of the world. And it is positioned like no other institution to shape a nation and its culture. Church has that power. The positioning of church in our society has the capability, has the potential. But today, I feel that church is missing out that key element that is not able to influence the culture through his existence. Church is there, they're doing good job, but they are not able to influence the culture. They are not able to change the culture that we are seeing today. If you look holistically, there are 7 medians in a society that makes a nation. When I say 7 medians, what are those medians that makes a nation? There are 7 medians, and those medians are, number 1 is business, government, then media, church, arts and entertainment, education, and the last, social sector. These are the 7 medians that can shape a nation. That is business, government, media, church, arts and entertainment, education, and social sector. These 7 medians basically drives the entire nation. When churches embrace the common goal of both redeeming culture and individual souls, the possibility for positive cultural influence drastically increases. Right? When church is pursuing this, not only redeeming the culture and individual souls, then the possibility of positive cultural influence dramatically increases. And we as Christians are called to be in this world, but we fail to understand the work of culture creation may take place outside the physical wall of a church building. Most of the time it takes place outside the physical wall of a church building. The Puritans arrived in New England area during 16th century, if I'm not wrong, 16th or 17th century. And they created a deeply religious, socially tight-knit, and politically innovative culture. When they arrived, they created that perfect environment for church to grow. And then, slowly, when we had the Second Awakening, that spread from New England to the American frontier in around, I think, 1700s, late 1700s and early 1800s, introduced many people to Christ. That awakening introduced and converted many people to Christ. In churches led by Jonathan Edwards and John Wesley and many others of that time, had peoples from all other 6 medians of the society. There were peoples attending this church. They were part of government. They were part of art and culture. They were part of entertainment industry. They used to attend the church. The church median at that time embraced other medians like business, government, media, art and entertainment, etc. They embraced that during that time. And all these people who were related to these particular medians used to attend this median called church. And it was the local church that created a natural space where the social networks of these leaders within all 7 medians of culture came and worked together towards one common goal. And that is building a healthy society, building a healthy culture. And that was an amazing beginning that we got. Because unlike all other 6 medians, the church is a living organism where God's Spirit constantly moves and seeks to express Himself through a willing body. And when all these 6 channels or medians come together into the 7th one called church, it used to collectively move forward with one goal and one vision, as a spirit that was leading all of them was one. That was Holy Spirit. Because at that time, if you look, people who are engaged in politics, people who are engaged in entertainment industry, all belonged to church. And church embraced them and provided a platform. Sadly, now, we are focusing on just the spiritual and afterlife. The Christian church has strayed from its potential influence, the here and now, positioning itself instead as just another subculture. The emphasis of heavenly pursuits overshadowed the idea of living a life that will promote cultural influence. It just overshadowed. We became too spiritual and it overshadowed the idea of living a life that can promote cultural influence. Many Christians currently hold unique and influential positions throughout the 7 channels of culture today. But now we see that they are not supported by their fellow believers. It's not good. Church shrinked itself to just have teachings and revelations within the four walls. And they forgot about all other six mediums that are part of the culture or the society that builds a nation. Cultural leaders in business, in government, art and entertainment feels disconnected from local church nowadays. Or worse yet, they got misunderstood or misused. That's a very sad state of church. And today, through these sessions, I want to urge and encourage churches to start embracing all six mediums of the society within the church. Because as this new generation is growing in our church, they are seeing this and they are influenced by these mediums. So let's encourage them to be part of all seven mediums of the society. And when this new generation grows up, they will be spread across all seven mediums. And they will be part of our church. Now, when the movie that we will be watching then will be coming from entertainment medium, which is part of the church. Politicians, people who will be leading the country, who are part of government medium, will also belong to church, will also be coming from church medium. And then what will happen? We'll see the church becoming powerful and returning to its glory again. Isn't that so powerful thing to do as a church? To influence and to bring back church to the initial glory? But the question is how we can achieve this. How this can be done. What, as the generation, our responsibility is. Two very important things the church should start having, according to me, is teach culture and have a mentor and reverse mentoring relationship in church. So first one is teach culture. And when I say culture, people who might have joined in the middle of this session, don't misunderstand again me with culture when I'm saying culture to tradition that is originating in different churches because they belong to specific region or they belong to specific group. Here culture, I'm referring to something that influences the society, that governs a nation. When I say the first one is the church should teach culture, the church should take initiative in teaching culture by making them understand. Them by here is new generation, the generation that is growing in church. Make them understand and interpret today's culture to them and make them understand and try to make the differentiation between today's culture and what is the culture that is we would like to have. One interesting thing that I have noted in the church is younger generation is twice as interested as when they want to learn about how Christians can positively contribute to society. Church youth will be more actively participating in activities like food drive, health camps, etc., organized by church compared to a week of fasting prayer. We should have that also, but your newer generation are more driven towards more cultural improvement ideas. This idea of finding a way to bring their faith in Jesus to the problem they encounter in the world seems to be one of the most powerful motivation to today's younger generation. And churches should be tapping on these and start to teach them how culture can shape and change a nation. And that is the step one that they should be doing. To move our church to change the nation, to make the church in a position that it can influence the culture of the nation. The second point is mentor and reverse mentoring. Right? To achieve point one that we discussed, that is teaching culture, we should start with point two, that is mentoring. The church should embrace the idea of mentorship. What Proverbs 27:17 says? It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And that's perfect definition of mentorship. That's why churches should have mentorship programs. Few churches are following that, and I think many churches should follow because they don't have these. Smaller churches that are struggling should follow this mentorship programs. Mentorship also helps people to put their faith into action, which will put point one, that is serving the community. Jesus only spent 3 years of his life in public ministry, while in this period of short time is well known for his miracles and other significant events. Much of his focus was on relationship he had with his closest associates, whom the Bible refers as disciples, his disciples. Jesus taught them everything they need to follow him for a lifetime. Jesus gave them examples and parables, and he built the relationship with them. The most importantly, he taught them in a way that enabled them to teach everyone else they come into contact. Some churches may take this as having Sunday school, but mentorship is different for having Sunday school classes. Don't take me wrong, but Sunday school is a vital wing of a church, and it has to be there. There is no second thought of having Sunday school, because that's where you're building this foundation when these small kids are coming and learning. But Sunday school is different from mentorship. Mentorship is when we take this to a one-on-one relationship, right? That's what mentorship is. And I encourage church to start embracing that mentorship habits in church. One of the examples from Bible will be Jesus and Peter. We all know that Peter was hot-headed and impulsive person. He was one of Jesus' closest friend too. But yet, the night that Jesus was on trial before he died, Peter empathetically denied he was Jesus' friend to a group of people. Imagine at the moment Jesus needed him the most, Peter put himself first. The Peter who was passionate about God, who was passionate about Jesus, and when Jesus needed him most, he put himself first. And yet after Jesus died and came back to life, he met up with Peter to restore the relationship. Jesus helped Peter grow in character by walking with him through failures and disappointments, which strengthened Peter's faith. And that's what mentorship is. To walk through the failures and disappointment of your church members, especially those younger generation who tend to fail and get disappointed very easily. And not only mentorship is important, reverse mentoring for this generation is impactful too. Effective ministry means helping these young believers discover their own mission in the world. But this is not merely asking them to wait, but to encourage them to discover their own mission in this world. And when these young people discover their own mission, reverse mentoring should help them achieve those missions. Those missions can be one of those 7 medians that we initially talked about. Those missions can be to join one of the entertainment industry, to join politics, or to join business. And church should embrace and encourage that. So church to have an impact on culture, and church to have a powerful fingerprint or their footprint on culture, should start teaching them culture. Church should start the teaching of culture and its meaning with proper mentorship. And as I want to end today's session by quoting something that Tim Keller wrote. And he writes like this, it's very powerful. If we produce thousands of new church communities that regularly attracts and engage secular people, that seeks the common good of the whole city, especially poor, and that produces thousands of Christians who write plays, make movies, express creative journalism, begins effective and productive new businesses, and use their money for others, and produce cutting-edge scholarship and literatures, then we will see our vision for the city realized and the whole society changed as a result. Isn't that powerful? Amen to that. Tim Keller is saying that we need to invest on those 7 medians that defines a culture. We need to invest on those newer generation to encourage them and embrace them, to bring them up to be part of that culture so that they can define the nation. They can define the society. So they can move forward and make this church in coming years so powerful for this society and for our nation. So as I said, as I conclude, I want to just reiterate those 2 points that I said. That is, churches should start teaching culture. And again, when I say culture, churches should start teaching culture, the importance of culture, that is, importance of being part of government, being part of business, being part of art and media and entertainment industry. Should start teaching the importance of being part of that culture to the newer generation. And how that can be achieved is through mentoring. The leaders of the church should start mentoring their newer generation and start embracing their ideas and their visions, and encouraging them to think and make those thinking that these generation are thinking practical by supporting them. I want to continue this topic, church, in coming sessions. And I want to continue with how leadership can impact that, how worship team can impact that, how we as church members, normal church members, can influence those 2 aspects in church so that the creation of the culture can move out of these 4 walls of church building. So stay connected as we continue with this family empowerment series in Powervision. Thank you.